All right, we're good whenever you want to go. Just no further than the chair of the board.
Good evening. I've got a few minutes after 7, and so we're going to get started. I know that the only reason that we don't have every neighbor here in Oakwood is because the Predators game starts at 7. Otherwise, this place would be filled to the brim. Thank you all for being here, for joining us, and for the folks that watch on Facebook. I know we do have a good number of people that go back and watch this later on, and so that's also a good forum to disseminate information. For those of you that I don't know, although I think I know all of you, but just by way of introductions, I'm Brian Williams. I'm the current chair of the Oakwood Estates HOA. Matt Hendricks is treasurer. Hillary Hatcher is vice president, and Ruth Ann Tomonica is our secretary. And those are the current officers for the Oakwood Estates HOA. We will jump right in, and I'm sorry to begin with that I don't have a hard copy agenda. My printer died on me 5 minutes before I was going to print, and so this is the agenda, but you do have a piece of paper that you can take notes on if you need to. Matt, treasurer report.
Thanks for everybody for coming. If you know the score of the Predators game, don't let me know. I'm DVRing. Get through this fairly quickly.
Okay.
The biggest thing over the past, I guess, few weeks has been just the dues, getting the letters out, getting the payments in, and so currently our total deposits for the year have been $9,054.06, which that's up $500 from what we took in all of last year. We're down a few households for membership. Last year we had a total of 123 pay. This year we have, last year we had 137. This year we've had 123 pay so far. So I anticipate, honestly, there may be a few more hanging out at the post office box, and more dues will trickle in over the next couple of months if it goes like it did last year. I've also been keeping statistics. You know, this year we moved and raised the dues for people that are just moving in the neighborhood or paying a higher amount. We grandfathered everyone else in for the $40 that they have been paying, and we've suggested again an $80 payment for our dues. And so the statistics down at the bottom in the blue grid, a whole bunch of people have paid more than the minimum $40. And our average payment is right at $80. It's $79.42. That's up about $17 a household from last year. So I think that's a really positive thing. I think people are getting the message that as an organization, you know, our current due structure at 40 doesn't really do much but barely pay the lights. And so that's a good thing. From an expense standpoint, we had bills from Green Scene Landscaping that have occurred over the past few months. All the invoices came in at one time, so that's why we have all this. But that's composting and pine straw installation, new plants. Brian took most of the lead on what they did, so I'm not exactly sure what. But those are not just May expenses. Those have come in over the course of the past few months.
Yeah, and I'll give a quick update on that too. So first of all, the landscaping that they completed is permanent and will grow over time. All the plants that they planted are very hardy. They need minimal water, and so we don't have any intention of spending significant dollars on landscaping for the next several years. We shouldn't have to. The agreement we've struck with them is for them to do maintenance on those beds twice per month in the springish, summer, May-ish, April, May-ish, depending on weather, through September-ish, depending on weather, and then once per month over the fall, winter months. And so that, a larger expense for what they had to plant, but that should be it for several years now in terms of what got planted, its ability to grow and be maintained, et cetera, and again being very hardy and minimal water, because we worked with them to inform them there wasn't irrigation, that we do have volunteers who can water, willing to water, but our preference would not have to be like multiple times a week. We'd rather be able to get by on less than that, and and depend on the weather to regulate. So that's what they were able to do.
And if I remember, one of the invoices was rewiring some of the lights.
Yeah, we're still working with them on the lighting. They did rewire some of the lights and have fixed some of them. There are still some weirdness with those lights, but they're still working on it, and going to be adding a light to the Henpeck entrance, not this one. There's still one more light to be added to the Henpeck side, and a flagpole and flag on the Henpeck side, and they've got that on their schedule too.
So, any questions about this? I would like to say thank you for everyone that paid, that has joined, and for your generosity. I think that it's going to go a long way to helping us in the future. So, do I have a motion to accept these? So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Good, thank you.
Thank you for doing this. Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you, Matt. So on to current business. I don't know how many people in this room this impacts, or how many folks will watch on Facebook Live that it impacts, but just a quick update on the Williamson County school rezoning. For those that aren't aware, and I'll try to do this quickly, but also accurately. For those that aren't aware, the school board, or the school superintendent was proposing to the school board that Oakwood Estates and Oak Leaf schools be rezoned to Winstead Elementary, Heritage Middle, which we're currently zoned for Heritage Middle, and then Centennial High School. A group of neighbors individually and in a coordinated effort met with the school board members, with the school superintendent. The HOA actually convened one meeting that we held here at the church and communicated with them. And as a result of that effort, the recommendation to the school board was shifted, and now what has been finalized, approved, is Winstead Elementary. This is for Oak Leaf and Oakwood Estates. Winstead Elementary, Heritage Middle, and staying at Independence High School, which is a significant win for many families in our neighborhood, and I think future families. I realize that there aren't a lot of people maybe in this room that are impacted by that, but that really is a significant win for those families that it impacts, and I think moving forward, it makes a lot more sense to keep those kids together from Winstead to Heritage and then to Independence. Next on our to-do list as an HOA, and also as individual community members and neighbors, is to begin to have some community-type meetings so that our kids in Oak Leaf and Oakwood Estates can get to know the kids in, like, Sullivan Farms, for example, who go to Winstead, correct? Yeah, who go to Winstead Elementary, just as an example, because there is going to be some transition. That new rezoning will begin in the fall of 2018, not this fall, so not this next school year, but the following school year. And so we've got a year to get to know some neighbors, et cetera, et cetera. And before I say anything else about that, or before we field any questions about that topic, there were lots of people involved in this, lots of individuals who spoke up and advocated on their own behalf and on the community's behalf, et cetera, and I don't want to leave anybody out. With that said, Hillary, our very own Hillary Hatcher, did the lion's share of work in terms of coordinating and communicating and advocating on our behalf. And she not only deserves a round of applause out of this room, pause, but a sincere thank you for the work that she did and for her willingness to put in an effort on an issue that doesn't necessarily impact her or her kids right now. That high school thing for your kids is about 10 years off. It's not quite right around the corner just yet. But she deserves a huge thank you. And so for those watching on Facebook or that end up hearing this, when you get a chance to thank Hillary, thank her, because she really did do the lion's share of that work. So thank you, Hillary.
Thank you.
Question?
No, not a question. I
Oh,
want to
comment.
say you need to talk to our representative in this district, who is Dan Cash, who's on the school board. He worked hard to get this thing. I know Dan real well. I go to the school board meetings. I've never seen any of the school board meetings. I go regular.
Well, I watch them online and
No,
I
but
interact
go to
on a
meetings.
regular.
I've actually spoke many times at the meetings. So
Thank you for that, Gary. So thank you to Gary also for attending those
And also
meetings.
the commissioners have worked on it too.
Most
Absolutely, and thank you to the commissioners and to Dan Cash, absolutely all those things.
I have to
100,000%.
One other thing,
Yes,
Spring Mill is what's pushing all this thing, most of the school thing. And at every square mile in Spring Hill, there's 1,400 students. When you stop thinking, it's growing every day.
yeah,
It's getting bigger and bigger, so
That's
it's pushing this way. In Centennial, the growth in that area is very slow. So
Yep.
that high school is why they've done what they did. It's not even close to capacity.
increased property values and good schools will create crowding, and that's certainly what we're dealing with. And we're also dealing with the reality of public schools. It's a big tent, and so public schools are that, and so we're happy to do that. Thank you for your efforts, Gary, and to Dan and
It
others.
won't be the last redistricting.
No,
No.
it'll happen again in 3 years.
Since I've lived here, I've seen 4 of them.
That's right. So, thank you for that, Gary, and again, thank you to Hillary for her effort on that.
And Betsy's here with
Yeah.
us tonight, thanks to Betsy
Yes,
for
thank you, Betsy.
all the
Yes.
work the county commission's done in our support as well.
I move we triple your salary.
Yes. So we have a motion to triple Hillary's salary to 0. Any
I appreciate that.
motion? All in favor say aye. Great. That's a big raise. It's a big 300% significant.
Matt has a comment.
Yeah, anything else?
No, we just, after the $50,000 convertible that you approved for me last time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's above and beyond.
Any other questions, comments about school rezoning?
I put a detailed
Yeah,
information on it tonight
Yeah.
that Casey Hawes put out that kind of summarizes everything.
Yeah, yeah. And a sincere thank you to the school board members and our commissioners and the superintendent who chose to attend the meeting that we had here. They don't have to. You know, we understand that as well, so we appreciate that. Thank you. Neighborhood assistance. We talked, I think, at 2 meetings ago and then last meeting about a neighborhood assistance program. NAP is the name, which isn't a great name for something that's trying to assist people when they take a nap, but that's the name we came up with. We had an initial meeting that had probably 20 or 30 folks in it, had really good energy, came up with some good ideas. We weren't able to turn that into anything that we could execute around. I think part of the challenge in execution isn't from the side of people who are willing to help. It's figuring out how the heck to connect the people that want to help to people that have a need. That's really tough. I happen to have run an organization that deals in volunteerism for about a decade, and that was always the challenge. It was rarely having enough people to help or enough identified need. It's how you connect those two, and that's always more of an art than it is a science. We're going to take another run at that. And what we're looking for, and I realize there's only about 10 of us in this room, but again, for folks that pick this up on Facebook, we would really love to have a body or some bodies who would volunteer to help lead this effort. What leadership of this effort really means is to coordinate a group of folks on a day to go through the neighborhood and do some basic cleanup projects. I think we've got a lot of labor and a lot of interest. But we do need someone to help lead it. And quite frankly, I don't have the time right now, nor do Hillary and Matt. We would volunteer ourselves, but we would fail. And so we're just acknowledging that and seeking someone else that might be willing to volunteer. And so if anyone in this room or watching is interested in that, please, please, please contact me, Hillary, or Matt. We'll set a meeting date soon. To try to take another run at this. But the notion, again, as a reminder to folks, is to identify people in the community that maybe need their leaves raked, or their yard cut, or their hedges trimmed, or things like that, and they're not capable of it. Either they're elderly or have some disability or otherwise, and we want to be able to support those individuals. And this came up because we had a couple of situations in the neighborhood where people weren't able to do that on their own, and we discovered it really because of what was kind of happening externally in the house, and we said, hey, what's going on, and found out that they couldn't do this on their own. So we want to be thoughtful in that way in terms of how we can help. And so to that end, schedule a date. get the labor to go through the neighborhood and do those projects. Whether that becomes once a year, twice a year, whether it becomes random acts of kindness, I don't think we have a preference. I think we just want to figure out kind of what that sweet spot is of connecting the very real interest and energy with what seems to be some need. So if you're interested in helping out, please contact me, Matt, or Hillary. Questions about that? Great, thank you. Just as I guess a quick update, I think we may have covered this, and Matt mentioned it briefly in the Treasurer's report, but we did hold a vote several weeks ago now, more than a month ago now, to increase the HOA dues for Oakwood Estates for new homeowners, not current homeowners, but for new homeowners, up to $150. That vote was approved by a vast majority. It was approved, and we have instituted that, and I think even seen our first. At least one. We've seen at least one new member under that new bylaw change. And so for any new neighbors coming into the neighborhood, they'll pay $150 to be a part of the Oakwood Estates HOA. And again, we grandfathered everybody else in. So if you've been living in the neighborhood and you want to pay $40 to be a member of the HOA, keep paying $40. That's A-OK. We have requested $80, as Matt mentioned, and now the bylaws state that in order to be a member, you are required to pay $150 for new homeowners, and that has gone into effect. And haven't received any pushback or negativity about that whatsoever. So, along those same lines, Stephanie Nitty, who is a section leader in the neighborhood, has been doing gift baskets from the HOA to new homeowners. When they move in, the HOA provides a gift basket, just some small things, a welcome, information about the HOA, etc. We're moving away from the gift baskets and going to do just kind of a small little, I think $10 gift card for new homeowners, and welcome to the neighborhood and to get to know the HOA information, etc. It's a way for us to be good neighbors and to try to allow people an opportunity to get to know each other more quickly. So, yes, sir.
And that was wonderful, by the way. I was one of the recipients of what that gift basket was really cool. One thing that we really did value out of that, other than the goodies that came with it, was the sheet of paper with all the garbage companies on it. All that information coming here when you have to source that stuff on your own is very valuable. If that could be continued, it'd be great.
Yeah, it is. The information is going to stay the same. It was just she was kind of the moving and shifting of getting the stuff versus just getting a gift card. The gift card's a little bit more simple, but the information will stay the same.
Great.
Yeah, and thank you for that. It's
very valuable.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Good Lord, I don't have my glasses on.
Come further. Come further.
Far away from that thing. So we've been talking about lights in the neighborhood for 77 years, even before the neighborhood was built. Interestingly enough, it's curious timing that way. But no, in all seriousness, I think 2.5 years ago, we had 15 new lights installed in the neighborhood. Following that, we identified another 10, 12, 15 to add. And I began the process of communicating with Middle Tennessee Electric a 1.5 years later. Yay, rah, go team, loud applause. We are finally on the schedule for the second week of June. And so they'll be adding, Middle Tennessee Electric will be adding about, I think it's 9 that we got approved by neighbors, because what we do there is we identify kind of the dark spots. We go to those neighbors, ask if they're cool with it. If they say yes, we go forward. If they say no, then we don't. We're not pushing that. It's a neighbor choice. And we've got one light that was broken and is being fixed. And so if you see a light that was working and is no longer working, contact me and I will attempt to get that on their schedule. Well, I won't attempt. I will try to get that. I will get that on their schedule, one way or the other, depending on how long they take. But we are finally on Middle Tennessee Electric's schedule for the second week of June. And just as a reminder, we still have not been charged for the first round of lights. I have informed them of that every time I've contacted them. I've said we did this back in X date and we haven't been charged. This was the amount, and we still have not been charged. I would anticipate that now that we're on their schedule and they're going to do this, it'll pick up an invoice. We'll like scoop up an invoice in their books and we'll get charged for that, which is appropriate since they did the work. I just wanted to give an update on those lights, and those should happen the second week of June, unless something shifts with them. That's what they told me. So,
Good. Thank you, Brian.
yep.
Have we heard anything back from TDOT yet on the road?
No, I have not heard anything. I've not gotten any information back from them. I've contacted Williamson County TDOT a couple times. Hillary is asking about the Lewisburg entrance right out here when you're turning right into the neighborhood off of Lewisburg. There's erosion happening right there, and it's just beginning to eat into the road, such that if you cut that corner too tight, you could end up in that ditch. We put up a couple of reflectors there.
It ate
One
the
of them-
reflector again.
Yeah.
And then most recent rain. That's why I asked.
Yeah,
'cause
so the reflectors have been eaten a couple of times by the erosion, so we know it's eroding even worse. TDOT said they came out and looked at it and that it was theirs to handle and that they were going to fix it, but then I heard nothing. I contacted them. They said, yep, it's on our schedule, heard nothing, and I need to contact them again. But no, we haven't. I'll get on that again. But we do know who. Yeah, it's
Thank
TDOT,
you.
and I've got the guy's name in my phone. I can give it to you. It is TDOT Williamson County. We know that for certain. It is their responsibility. I mean, they said it was their responsibility. At
And you
first,
can-
there was some rigmarole about who owned that.
the highway versus TDOT. They went back and forth, but you can if you go over to Lewisburg entrance, you can see the reflectors. It's right under the wall. Just as it comes down the hill, it just erodes right there.
And it's-
Mr. Davis's
The other side,
Other side.
Okay.
Yeah,
the Bookers.
yeah. And it's getting pretty rough at this point. I mean, you really could end up in that ditch on your front right tire. If you cut
Or
that too
bikers
sharp.
or walkers.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
we've been trying to protect, is anybody that could not see it during the night or something.
Yeah. One item that I failed to just write up here on the agenda, there's not a whole lot to talk about just yet because we're way early on this, but as an HOA, officers and section leaders, we've been thinking about, along with the folks that serve the Oakwood Tennis and Pool Club, we've been thinking about ways that we can tangibly increase the value and enhance the value of the properties in this neighborhood. Certainly, street lights and better signage and prettier entrances are small ways that we can enhance beautification. There's no research that suggests there's any kind of significant impact on the actual value of your house property as a result of that, but it's about beautification and maintaining pretty property, and we're happy to do it. We should do it. The only way to really tangibly increase value of property is to do capital improvements, and so in exploring the potential capital improvements we could do in this neighborhood that are reasonable, that aren't like, sidewalks, that's not reasonable for us, is enhancing what's happening up and around the pool property. And so I worked with an architect who volunteered, a neighbor in Oakwood, who volunteered her time to put some drawings down on paper, and the goal is, quite honestly, to create a space up at that pool that is inviting for not only, we'll start with our neighborhood right now, that is inviting for our neighborhood, whether you're a pool member or not. Be that a covered pavilion with picnic tables, those soccer fields get used quite often, whatever that might look like. How can we increase the value of properties through some capital improvements, both short-term, mid-term, and really long-term for that pool? And so my plan moving forward, and we'll talk about this more formally as we move through it, is to form a committee of people that are interested in kind of helping think through this. And the first couple of steps are just going to be thinking through kind of what are the real opportunities from a capital standpoint, capital improvement standpoint up and around that pool property. Obviously, we don't control that. All of that would have to be done in concert with the pool board, who I have met with. Hillary and I met with them just to kind of have discussion. That discussion went well. Really, the ultimate feedback was that yes, if the HOA wants to be supportive of what's happening at the pool, then 2 thumbs up. And if there's a way for us to collectively increase the value of these properties as a result and create some space where the neighborhood can convene, whether you're a pool member or not, then that's 99% approval. People want that. People want playgrounds where they can take their kids, a pavilion where they can have birthday parties. That's a part of most healthy neighborhoods. We're lacking in that way. This neighborhood doesn't have a tremendous amount of community space, with the exception of that space, and so how can we enhance that space? So not really anything to do there yet, more just kind of information for you right now, but the next steps will be to bring a group of people together and start exploring some of the ideas. The renderings that were put down on paper were really just to kind of dream. They're not connected to anything. There's no budget connected to them right now. They absolutely are dreaming. We're not suggesting that anything is possible at this point. It's just thinking. I think one of our jobs is to think about how we continue to enhance the neighborhood, again, short, mid, long term. And this certainly is one way that we can do that in all of those ways, short, mid, and long term enhancement. So I don't know if there's anything I can even answer if there are questions at this point, but just wanted you all to be aware of that and be very transparent about kind of what we're starting to think about in terms of future enhancements to that space and that common space as well.
Has there been any talk on making that a community pool?
How do you mean that? I mean, so it is. Let me.
Without membership, that everybody paid dues towards the pool, like
I got
they
you.
do in lots of other subdivisions.
I got you.
The pool is part of the HOA.
I got you. I know that there have been conversations along those lines in the past. I have had a couple of conversations with pool board members about that topic, but none that are real because I don't have the authority to do anything. I could just kind of meet with folks and kind of think and communicate. I think that ultimately that might be, in my opinion, I think ultimately that's the best place for us to land, but we are far, far, far away from that.
But they're not necessarily adverse to that.
No. In fact, I think welcoming. I mean, look, the people who are on that pool board are us. They're members of this neighborhood. I mean, they're not strangers who are on that pool board. It's Buff, and it's Claire, and it's I'm missing names, but Megan was chair last year. Matt's wife Megan was chair of the pool board last year. So it's neighbors in this community who are on that pool board, and so I think there's absolutely a welcoming attitude towards kind of what the longer term relationship can be with the neighborhood and the pool. I think the reality is that our covenants lapse in 2020. That might be the best opportunity if something's going to happen, but I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of speaking off the top of my head at this point. Certainly financially, that could make good sense, and I think that we might be able to motivate people in that direction, depending on what enhancements we can make up there, but we'll have to wait to see. Any new business? Yeah.
I suggest we have the signs put up for the meetings, when we have meetings. We've had them signs since I've moved in here, when they have a meeting. Not everybody looks at their emails or whatever, and it's a reminder that there is a meeting. We bought signs years ago, replaced the ones we had.
Yeah, so for people that can't hear, Gary's saying that he's suggesting that the signs be put up in advance of the meetings. They have been for every meeting except for this one, and that's my fault. My fault. Hillary typically puts them out. They were at my house. I didn't do it, so that's my fault. That's on me.
It's not a hard thing to do.
Yeah, no, it's my fault. I'm saying I'm acknowledging I was supposed to do it. I didn't do it. It's my fault. That's not a systemic thing. It's not an error on anybody else's part. They always get put out. They will be put out next time. That's on me, and I'm sorry.
I move we cut his salary in half.
Yeah.
I just got my salary cut in half.
Which is equal to the raise she got.
You got to balance the budget. You know?
Yeah. If
Any
they
other-
Cadillac, we bought her.
Any other new business? All right. Again, thank you all. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for what you do in the neighborhood. We genuinely appreciate it. We're adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Go Chris.
No president.